Hey, what's up everybody? We are doing a quick video, still on the skull here. We are doing the sphenoid bone. The sphenoid bone. So we're going to see that sphenoid bone in several places, starting with a lateral view of my skull here. And notice the zygomatic arch right there. We met the temporal bone and zygomatic process right there. This is the zygomatic arch. Here's the zygomatic bone. And kind of nestled between that zygomatic bone and that temporal bone is the sphenoid bone. That is in fact called the greater wing of the sphenoid bone. It's even kind of wing-like here. We'll see it even more wing-like when we rip off the top of the skull. So we got our sphenoid bone there on the lateral surface of the skull. Also, if we look inside the orbit, so I want you to look inside that orbit, and I want you to notice the kind of the slashy opening there. It's a fissure. I'm going to try and poke it. There we go, close up in my hand. That fissure right there. That fissure also finds us the sphenoid bone. We see the sphenoid bone on kind of both sides of that fissure, okay? So we can actually see the sphenoid bone right here and then also over there. I wonder if I should turn my light on. Let me know if that's better or worse. All right, other things. Now what I want you to do, and I'm gonna zoom in really close, is look at that little hole right there. See that little hole? There's an arrow pointing at it. All right, we see it right there. We also see it. There it is right there. That hole is called the optic canal, and the optic nerves on each side. So these cranial nerves called optic nerves that take information from your eyeballs back to the back of your brain are going to run through those holes, those optic canals in your sphenoid bone. Okay, more sphenoid bone. We need to take off the calvarium, the top of the skull. Let's unhook it so we don't break it. So I took this off, put this down over here. So now what I'm going to do is I got my skull, I got my frontal bone here. I'm going to rotate. And once I rotate enough, I got my frontal bone in here, ethmoid bone. We'll deal with that in another video. But then right here, this is all sphenoid bone. All sphenoid bone. We do see occipital bone back here. We see temporal bone here and temporal bone here. All going to articulate with the sphenoid bone. Now, if we find these good old, there it is, the petrous portions of the temporal bone, we see them right there. Those petrous portions of the temporal bone are going to walk us to a part of the sphenoid bone, and I'm getting my finger in right there. That part of the sphenoid bone is called the Sella Turcica. The Sella Turcica is right in there, okay? That's the Sella Turcica. The Sella Turcica is, it means the Turkish saddle. Somebody thought it looked like a saddle of the Turkish variety. And in your Sella Turcica, that's where your pituitary gland secretes. Pituitary gland secretes a bunch of, let me rewind, I'll fix that in post-production. The pituitary gland sits in the Sella Turcica. Then the pituitary gland secretes a variety of hormones, including a couple of reproductive hormones, including growth hormone, hormones involved in lots of other things that you'll deal with in the course of the semester. So, anyway, Sella Turcica, right there. In front of the Sella Turcica, there is an expanse, kind of right behind the frontal bone there. That's called the lesser wing. Then to either side of the Sella Turcica, we have the greater wings of the sphenoid bone. Okay, that is almost it for the sphenoid bone. We also have to look at it from kind of a inferior portion, inferior view or posterior view. There we go. So right here, if I find the back of my nasal cavity, I got my two nasal apertures in the back here. There's the vomer in the middle. Deal with him in another video. But right next to these nasal apertures, there are a pair of processes. One here, one here. These are the pterygoid processes, the two pterygoid processes right here. I'm going to kind of take off his mandible. There we go. Gently remove the mandible. So again, I can see the two pterygoid processes, one right here and one right about there. These guys anchor chewing muscles, muscles that kind of give you a grinding motion back and forth. So those are the pterygoid processes. Remember, the pterygoid processes are kind of near the teeth. Okay, almost done with the sphenoid bone. I just got to get out this little guy. This is a sphenoid bone, disarticulated sphenoid bone. This sphenoid bone right here, he's facing you. I'm holding him by the pterygoid processes. I have my little lesser wing here. You can see how wing-like it is. I got my greater wings here, greater wing here. So you can see again, you can see the lesser wing right there. You can see the greater wing here, greater wing right there. Got my Sella Turcica sitting there. It is. There's my Sella Turcica right there. If I kind of position it like this and I put my marker, not my marker, my pen, right there, you see the red of my pen coming through a hole in the sphenoid bone? That hole is the optic canal. See that optic canal?